You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radagast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Sulyce, and this is episode 96. On today's episode, the segments are going to include the Bar Citizen updates, where they're going, why they're going. We're going to hit the highlights for 2025 or 2955. We'll be looking very quickly at the Star Citizen Live segment that aired yesterday called the Interview with the Vehicle Concept Team. But the main meat of our show will be covering the supplier die that literally launched the day of last week's episode, last night's experiences with Soul Provision, and having almost 30 individuals doing the supplier die. So that'll be a very exciting segment. We're going to be going into the Evocati patch 4.1 notes and what we can expect out of the next patch without ruining anything. There's a lot of leaks floating around out there. We've never once gone into leaks before. We might hint at a few things that I've seen kind of through some notes that probably shouldn't have been shared. But we'll look at PTU 4.1. We have the March subscriber flare. We've got the components, power, and signatures ship owner guide that also released. We'll quickly go through that. And then, yes, we will absolutely cover the hotly debated topic of the item recovery implementation that completely blew up the community. I've got my own personal reactions to it. I'll explain how the community feels about it. And then, of course, I would love to hear your thoughts after this episode through the polls and the comment section in Spotify and over on YouTube. Last, we will wrap things up with the PU monthly report, a few gold nuggets, but we will go through that. There's no Inside Star Citizen to watch. So this might be an hour episode, but let's just have a good time and see how long it takes to get us through this. So how's everyone doing? For the first time in 3 weeks, I actually feel decent. Now, will I cough in this episode? Of course. This is Beyond the Verse, and I cough every episode, evidently, but I feel significantly better. Hopefully I sound better. I don't have that tickle in my lungs or tickle in my throat. I've got a huge ass cup of water next to me just in case. So this should be an audibly pleasing episode for those of you listening and watching. Again, I hope this finds everybody well. It's been a lot of fun this last couple of days. Now, work, this is not a podcast about my work, but like mentally exhausting. I'm a doc owner for a massive OP2 doc. It's 15 pages with 18 authors. And if you've ever had to do that at work, it becomes your life. And so every day, every night, spanning across a global impact, so time zones and everything else, I haven't had much time to really get in game. I did preparation for supplier die. I did a couple missions by myself, but basically on the back end, this is welcome to my world. On the back end, I spent most of the time on the operation order, helping out. We actually had one of our members lead last night's org night, and so it was really cool to kind of step back and let others, lead. And it was awesome to see that come to fruition. But when you've got a massive operation, like, again, we were planning for 34 people, I think right around 28 showed up. It takes a lot out of you. And there's a lot of considerations and, of course, a lot of anxiety because, well, again, I'll explain what the operation actually was. But there's just a lot going on. So not a lot of time spent in game, but a lot of time spent in the news. And so I'm really looking forward to getting into that with you. But first.
Incoming message.
This is the first episode of March, and so we will go into the monthly show review just quickly. I think every fourth episode, evidently, I go through this, so I don't want to rehash a lot of my sentiment. But again, none of this happens without you. This is more about you than it is about me. But let's go through some of these numbers, right? In 95 episodes, 17 bonus org nights, which, by the way, we're going to start doing more org nights. I am struggling with doing this live because I am the leader of Soul Provision and I do a lot of command and decision making. I don't want to introduce stream sniping into what we do on Thursday nights. And so if this is a bonus org night, it more than likely will be a recording that gets published the next day. But if we have a light lift, not that serious of an org night, I'm going to start trying to get that live so we can interact, with the community and you can see what it's like to be part of Soul Provision. Anyways, and we still have the one ARC episode. Guys, I had every intention last year to get into a book club. My life is so 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. It's wall to wall with things. 9-year-old son, 6-year-old daughter, work like I just described, running an organization that is super engaged, super active. I've got the website, I've got the podcast, I've got all these things happening. So unfortunately, books kind of fall off my priority list. So maybe that'll increase. I'm still reading the books. This is the Red Rising series. It's amazing. I'll get after it at some point. All right. 82 countries are listening in, over 53.2 thousand times, watching 52.5 thousand views over on YouTube and on Spotify. And then, of course, our Soul Provision organization grew to 285 Discord members and 155 Spectrum members. We actually had a conversation about this last night. Spectrum needs some improvement before anybody ever uses it. It's a great concept. It's actually a chat system that's outside of the game. And it just makes it hard. You might as well just use Discord. Everybody's used to Discord. Everybody's familiar with it. So using Spectrum is kind of deprioritized. So that's why you had that discrepancy. Most organizations will have more in their Discord than they will in Spectrum. Let's go through the platforms real quick. Over on the podcast, 868 followers. Hopefully we hit 900. I can't imagine hitting 1,000 in 2025, but we're close. 868, we'll hit 900 this year for sure. The 53.2 thousand plays, 477 plays per episode over on YouTube, 975 subscribers. I love my 13 members. You guys are freaking phenomenal. Thank you for being members and committing your disposable income to something that you love and enjoy. Really do appreciate that. We are about to hit 1 million impressions over on YouTube. 945.3 thousand impressions. We will more than likely hit 1 million around the 100th episode. That would be kind of exciting. It'd be exciting if we hit 1 million impressions on the 100th episode. Anyways, 4.7 thousand watch hours across 26 countries over on Twitter. We have the 2.7 thousand followers. It actually grew quite a lot in the last couple of weeks, but again, we're in that kind of lull, and as we focus on more game stabilization, there's not a lot of sexy things bringing people to the community, but I'm actually, again, stoked, really happy with the 2.7 thousand followers. Quickly, you can see the rest of the numbers there. 515 followers on Blue Sky. Extra Life has now taken over. We actually got rid of TikTok, so we put in Extra Life in its place. Here's your $745 raised year to date. Against a 14% goal, a 14% to our goal. And this is really neat. Across all teams that are associated with Extra Life, we're number 58. And there are thousands and thousands of teams. So it's kind of cool to be close to the top 50, but we're number 58. So Extra Life, real quick, before we move on away from this, Extra Life is our philanthropy for 2025. We partnered with them. All dollars go straight through. It's a straight pass through to the children's hospitals around the United States. We have partnered with Dell's Children's Hospital in the Texas area. So again, every dollar goes straight to them. I don't see it. Extra Life doesn't see it. It goes straight to the kids. And how can you not support the kids? Alrighty, to last week's episode, the polls and the comment section. Let's go. Sharing my screen. We asked the question, how do you feel about time-locked missions? Because after March, no one can relive or earn Fight for Pyro or Supplier Die rewards. And of course, this is a Likert scale, so strongly favored down to strongly not in favored. And here's your breakout. Out of 10 votes, we had 40% said they're in favor. We had 30% say they're neutral, 20% said strongly not in favor, and 10% said not in favor. So here's how you look at Likert scales. At least this is how we do it at Amazon, and I would say a lot of other organizations look at it this way as well. So the Likert scale is, it's interesting. It's like, you're like strongly favored is like absolutely 100% good to go, right? But your favored is like a yes, but. It's like you're in favor, but there's something there. There's something there that like should pique interest. Neutral, not in favor, and strongly not in favor are all negative. Like even neutral. Neutral's like, it does nothing to me. Now imagine being in a relationship, right? And your significant other is like, how do you feel about me? I'm neutral. Doesn't feel good, does it? So look at it in that lens. So neutral, not in favor, strongly not in favor, all negative. So theoretically, -1 over positive. But I just want to react to that real quick. I told you last week I was on the fence. I told you last week that, like, I get it. A video game can't just accommodate for all walks of life, newcomers, older adults that have additional responsibilities. Like, I get it, right? I get it. So it kind of sucks for some of us who won't be able to do some of these events. Now, I am almost there. Out of a requirement of 2,800 tickets, I'm at like 2,600. So I'll get all 3 rewards from Supplier Die in the next couple of days. Again, thanks to last night's Orgnite, really. But a lot of people can't. And then if they're gone for a month, right, like they will never experience Fight for Pyro or Supplier Die or what it has meant to choose a faction. Okay, I've actually made a 180. So I have made my decision. I'm actually in favor. I'm actually in favor of time-bound missions because it doesn't penalize those who are here. Again, you can't really account for who's not, but you can account for who is. And so for those of us, and again, you have the 6 million, or however many it is at this point, accounts, I didn't say people, but game accounts that are in existence. Yeah, that's what you're doing this for. You're doing it for those people who have already backed the game, they're already playing it. And through that lens, absolutely. Let's make it special. Let's make it special. Let's make it to a point where things that we do in game impact the future of the game. I've come full circle. So it is what it is. All right, comment section. We have 8 to go through. We're going to go a little bit on the quicker side. Why does this look so different? Open comments. They need to stop changing the user interface here. All right, Dakota Riley, let's go to you first. While your fire team logged off, this is last week's Orgnite, Alpha and Charlie grouped up at the end of the night and took on the executive hangar. Freaking phenomenal. Groza, Iron Belly, and I were Chadley EVA room defenders, while Ruckus, Flange, and Aggrieved and some others had Chadley station defense and hot dropping with key cards, and someone walked away with a Sulin that I was Chadley getting out of the... Okay, too many Chads. Too many Chads, Dakota Riley. And I was Chadley getting out of the hangar at the last second. Also, I love the limited time events that don't come back. Makes me feel part of history that can't be rewritten. Love you as always, Dakota, one of our fan favorites in Soul Provision. Downpad PK. I'm writing this from the future, where the limited time events are a great success. Server stability has been amazing since the release of 4.0.2, #Copium. To be real though, I like the idea of these limited time events so long as the game is in a state where it's playable. While I have been lucky with the save stand-in Fight for Pyro, I know many people have had troubles with them. That doesn't feel great to me. Anyway, thank you for what you do. You're welcome. Hope you have a great week in 4.0.2. Just quick reaction to that. Yeah, I think the other dynamic to that poll and that whole conversation is like when the game works, right? If you have a time sensitive event. Now, I will say this. Star Citizen or CIG has done a good job expanding or extending deadlines to goals when they know the game has been broken. Like, for instance, Fight for Pyro. They've extended Fight for Pyro through March. So even though Supply or Die is currently live, they extended the deadline. So you can do both. You can still do both and get rewards for both. So CIG has, I think, done their due diligence and have accommodated for when the game is broken or when we're seeing some difficulty. But to the point that is being said here, yeah, I mean, there's like, if you remember Xenothreat, the last Xenothreat raid in the Overdrive Initiative, there was like a lot of issues towards the end there where they cut off Overdrive Initiative and said, all right, that's done. Now you can only get Xenothreat rewards. A lot of people were having issues with Overdrive Initiative. And so that was kind of a lost opportunity for some of them. So there's some sentiment that's trickling over or that's spilling over into some of these new events. So good call out, down bad PK. Over to Anna. Anna says, I got an ad again on Spotify. Thought you stopped. I did stop. There was a setting on Spotify that reset. Now, whether that's my error or whether it's Spotify's error, I don't know. Not pointing fingers, but it just started happening again. So thank you for the call out. It's actually because of your comment I caught it. And moving forward, we will not have advertisements back in the podcast. So thank you so much. Nathan Fogelman, please correct me if I've misspelled your name or mispronounced your name, writes, concerning the limited time events, I completely understand the reason for doing it, even outside of the, quote, getting people to load into the game and play right now, end quote. That being said, it does make me feel sad because realistically, I personally probably won't have time to load in and play by the end of March. So I'm probably going to miss these. Not that I've been able to play any of the earlier missions yet, but here's to hoping that they'll keep it up so we can get cooler missions and rewards eventually. Yeah, so that shares the sentiment that I've shared, is not everybody has the time to be able to do this. So hopefully, Nathan, it works out for you. Best of luck. Best wishes. Isoret? You guys, I can't even say normal words right. Then you come to me with a name spelled like this. I don't know. Isoret, whatever. Writes, I like the idea of limited time events. However, it's a constant battle against the numerous bugs that ambush your game session at any time, preventing mission completion, which makes me want CIG to just get the game stabilized before making these one and done events and rewards. Absolutely. Thank God this year is focused on stabilization. Garth Andrew McKenzie writes, this mission chain is leading to what the future Pyro will be in the verse, in my opinion. That being said, the mission has to end and never happen again if the outcome actually means change in the verse. Good point. Two more. Tommy Walter writes, giving whales a specific game loop requiring no effort to make money is so Star Citizen. LOL. Great chat as always, dude. Yeah. There is definitely ways to cheese Fight for Pyro and Supply or Die. There's absolutely ways to cheese it. We'll get into some of the ways people are cheesing it here in a little bit. So funny. Dreamer of Days, last one. Feel free to skip reading this on air since it's rough. I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to read your shit. Let's go. Having limited time events in a game that's, quote, under development seems unethical to me. So does marketing it as both playable now and alpha, but I digress. Using human psychology, or he's calling it FOMO, the fear of missing out, to get people to buy in for limited time events on a finished product is one thing that he still disagrees with, but to do it during development is like asking someone to drink the Kool-Aid while the packets, water, and cyanide are still separate. Look, no attack to Dreamer of Days. I actually understand his sentiment, where he's coming from. There will always be, until Star Citizen comes out and becomes, an alpha state, a true alpha state, or beta, straight to 1.0, whatever the heck is in our future. You're always going to have this argument of like, how are they actually marketing Star Citizen? Is it playable? It is playable, but is it live? Should they be marketing it as such? Should they be marketing it as playable if there are some really down moments, right? 318. And sometimes around like December, I think December, it was pretty bad as well. Should CIG be marketing it as playable or live? I don't know. It's tough, right? It's tough. And that plays into these time sensitive events. Like the unethical piece, I mean, I don't know. Like friend to friend, I think that's a little strong. I think it's a little too strong to say it's unethical. But it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good when they market it as such, and when you get in, you can't, right? Like my issues in December when I was seeing black screens, I couldn't log in. I couldn't log in for like 18 days, right? Is the game playable? Not for me, right? Is it an alpha? Shouldn't be, right? But that was my personal experience. So I think it's a very good debate. It's one I'm not going to sit here and talk at you about. I think y'all know how I feel after 96 episodes. I mean, heck, I create a podcast for it. So you think I would support or have an understanding of of where I'm at with the game? But yeah, it's a tough one, bud. It's a tough one. They definitely play into FOMO, absolutely. But that's marketing. I can't think of any other game or any other media platform that doesn't do this, right? The FOMO thing is how people market in 2025, right, wrong, or indifferent. Okay, we actually do have an email, and I just realized I haven't been sharing my screen, and I think that's fine. But we do have an email. If y'all remember last week, we read an email from a David Leppert. I do want to come back and read his follow-up. I thought, again, it was a great email he wrote called The Space Dad, if you remember. Good conversation, I think, but he writes back, "Dear Sulyce, I just wanted to thank you for taking time to answer my email about advice for a space dad. I just wanted to update you, so don't feel any pressure to read this on podcast or respond. Again, like I said, I will. Your advice was helpful. I hadn't considered bed logging right outside of the armistice zone of a Lagrange station. I've always set my respawn at one of the main stations. I have gone back to hauling missions, so I can hopefully make enough UEC to buy a Vulture. Hell yeah. The elevators have been working for the cargo runs between Seraphim Station and Orison. As far as joining an org is concerned, I felt like my inconsistent available playtime would be a barrier to getting involved in a meaningful way with orgs. That being said, I do know from times past spent playing with my brothers and nephews in Call of Duty and Elite Dangerous that it is always much more fun to play with comrades. Thanks again for your time and your efforts for the podcast. I look forward to listening to your future episodes." Heck yeah, man. I'm glad that worked out for you. You're going to love the Vulture. You're going to love salvaging. If you love mining, you're going to love salvaging. I actually like salvaging more than mining. I like living off of a Vulture. I like living off of a Reclaimer. Like it's all fun. And that's actually what I did most of in Supply or Die, which again, we'll get into in a couple seconds. But I'm glad that all worked out for you. Again, for everybody else, if this is your first episode, I will highly recommend that you get away from capital cities as soon as you can. Get in the middle of nowhere, go in between planets, right? Start flying out to Crew L1, stop halfway, and you are literally in the middle of nowhere. No one can ever, jump to you unless they're in your party. That is like my idea of living in space, right? So find your favorite ship that has a bed, go out in the middle of nowhere, and have at it. A lot of people, okay, I'll speak for myself. I will take my Polaris. It used to be the 890 jump, but now it's the Polaris. I'll take it out in the middle of nowhere and just live off of that for, the times I do get the jump in game. I just kind of want to get in the hangar, get a Vulture out, go salvage something, come back to the Polaris bed log. It's such a fun living out in space game loop. So again, thank you so much for writing in, everybody. Every week we will get into that no matter how long it takes. We're 30 minutes into the podcast. Don't care. Great conversation. Okay, this week in Star Citizen, let's go. Sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube. Let's go. Hello, everyone. I'm not saying the other language here. Can't do it. The latest update launched last Friday. Yes, bringing a wealth of improvements. This release focused on 3 key areas: addressing top priority gameplay issues, improving connectivity and stability, and expanding the narrative with the Supply or Die event. As part of this update, you can now align with either Citizens for Prosperity or the Headhunters, each offering distinct combat and non-combat activities to shape your experience. Quickly, they deemed the Frontier Fighters to be actually the Splicers, and they're a terrorist organization and you can't really support them anymore. So everybody who signed up the initial Fight for Pyro and chose to do the Frontier Fighters were actually the smart ones. That was the one chance and the only chance to get that badass camo paint. Right? Like, everybody else the Frontier Fighters can now choose of their will to go into Citizens for Prosperity or Headhunters. And so it's like, it's kind of interesting. The people that chose the terrorist organization, have the one thing that none of us will ever be able to get again or support. I think that's very interesting. So they actually came out the winners, in my opinion. The Frontier Fighters came out as the winners. So now they get to choose whether or not, and there's like 26 missions to choose from in Supply or Die. And it's like 13 and 13. So it's like 13 that are for Headhunters, and then the same 13 missions, but different locations for Citizens for Prosperity. Just interesting. Back to the article. Over the weekend, we encountered some back-end issues that may have affected some of you. Absolutely did. While the team quickly developed or deployed a fix, followed by a maintenance to clean things up, further investigation and additional updates are ongoing. Keep a close eye on Spectrum and the RSI status page for more information. Last week also brought the first roadmap update of 2025, introducing the new 4.1 column in the release view. This column highlights some of the content coming your way during the 4.1.x patch cycle. Additionally, the 1.0 column has been updated with new cards, showcasing features planned to launch before or alongside Star Citizen 1.0. As development progresses, these cards will shift into their respective patch columns, reflecting their status in the pipeline. So let's see what came out this week. To the bullets. Tuesday, we had the March subscriber flare and promotions. We will cover that today and react to a little bit of it. It was a busy Wednesday. We had the PU monthly report, the ship owner guide to components, power, and signatures, and then again, the 2025 Bar Citizen World Tour comm link. We're actually going to cover that next, just quickly. We're going to cover the locations. I'll react to Bar Citizen and my experiences with them. And then to Friday, later today, we will get to the RSI weekly newsletter. I did skip over Thursday. Yesterday was the Star Citizen Live. Basically, it's a long Inside Star Citizen. Now, I watched it, but we will not go through the hour-long episode on this podcast. So I'm just going to high-level summary of my experience when we get to that. Alrighty. Here we go. Bar Citizen. Let me just go back to share my screen. So each year they will announce, now this doesn't limit them to only these locations, but these are the locations that will be full-fledged CIG-backed events. Usually a crew of CIG developers or community organizers will go and they will be part of this community-led event. And so here are the upcoming events for 2025. We have Nashville, Tennessee. We have Korea. We have China. We have Spain. We have Germany, France, Canada. And we have International Bar Citizen Day, all studio locations, Europe, North America, and America. So there you go. Details coming soon. That means Austin will have a location as well. I'll try my best to be there for June 14th and 15th. All right, we got Europe. Copenhagen, Denmark. We've got North America, obviously the Quantum Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada, which, by the way, this is a really neat event. Congratulations to the Astropub and Starjump, who are going to be moderators for this event. So that's super exciting. You guys are familiar listening to this podcast, who those two individuals are. So that's exciting. We have Tampa, Florida. We have Germany again, Cologne, Germany. We have Seattle, Washington. So that might be interesting to try to plan. I have a hair like on my face. Sorry. That's annoying. I'll have to plan like an Amazon trip around August 29th for the Seattle, Washington event. Again, Portugal over in Europe. We have Italy, and that's it for this. I heard through the grapevine, and again, I still have hair on my face. I heard through the grapevine that we're not having a CitizenCon this year. And so, hey, CIG, if you are listening to this podcast, which I know some of you do, can we just have like a post or something about that? Can we just call it out? Like if the plan is to not have a CitizenCon because of stabilization and focus on Squadron 42, can we just announce that? Kind of rip the Band-Aid off? Otherwise, we're already in the end part of Q1. There's only like 3 weeks left of Q1. And usually we know by now, I feel like usually we know location and dates. Usually. So yeah, Bar Citizen, go attend. Go attend all of your Bar Citizens. Don't wait for CIG to be there. Really network. Become part of your community. You'll never know who you meet. These might be friends of yours for life once you meet them and you invite them to your organization. And that's just the best way to build. Go do it. Don't be socially awkward, or go be socially awkward, but just be present. My advice to you, Bar Citizen is the place to be. All right. Yesterday, we had the vehicle concept team as part of an interview for Star Citizen Live. Okay, I was at work. Full transparency. I was at work, so you have to be careful. You have to be careful of having it on in the background and listening to it. But what's funny, I also had a global all hands that was also virtual. So on one screen, I had this global all hands playing. On the other screen, I had this interview vehicle concept team. So I'll be very honest with you. I don't know what the hell they spoke about. I don't know what was said, but I did have, the images, of course, come across the screen. And then I asked some of the community, like, hey, what's going on at this point? And this is in Soul Provision. Like, what's going on here? What are the ships that, they're showing? I will say they didn't announce anything new, or at least I'm not going to play into the leaks that might have been around that time period. So I'll just say Anvil. I told you I'd hint a little bit. So there you go, Anvil. So just be ready, peek around corners for Anvil. But it was more just like how they think about things and how they look at different concepts. And so, like Kruger will continue to look like Star Wars speeder bikes, but they had a really cool display of the different options and like how they look at different design languages. It's fun. It's a good hour-long video. If that interests you, if you're interested in the industry and what it's like to be part of a concept team like this, I think the artistry of it is amazing. The creativity of it is amazing. I will be honest with you though, there's a part of me that would probably end up getting pretty exhausted. You spend all this time churning design languages and churning these ideas, and maybe 5% of it actually gets used. I think that to me would be kind of exhausting, intellectually, like mentally exhausting. So like at least as a senior product manager, like for Amazon, like what you're working on, and you're spending time herding cats, right? Trying to write a doc or trying to, move roadmaps, right? What you're working on, and you have this timetable and you have backwards planning. But when you have such an open-ended creative, job of like creating concepts, I have a massive respect for people who can do that, spend their time creating these assets. And like, again, the majority of it gets thrown away. So shout outs to CIG's vehicle concept team. I thought it was fun to watch. Again, don't know what was said. So I'll have to go back and actually listen to the words, but cool. Supply or die. Okay, here we go. Time to get into some fun conversations here. Let me go to actually this screen. Okay, supply or die. Last night, let me just quickly go through what supply or die is, high level. And then I want to talk about last night. So since Friday, you have had the opportunity, and you watched the Inside Star Citizen, especially if you listened to this podcast. Last week we covered it. So I don't really want to go through what Supplier Die is, like, the nuts and bolts. But just quickly, from like an executive summary perspective, Supplier Die, you choose mining, you choose salvaging if you're like solo or small groups, right? Or you can do a data train run, which is more like what you're seeing on the screen. It's combat related. You have to go, it's basically Jump Town. You have to go to a depot, you have to kill everybody in your way, purchase the items, go to a freight elevator, pull the items up, load the shit onto a cargo vehicle, and then take it back to a location. So again, everything you're seeing here. So that's like the sweaty, that's like the high velocity version of what to do. You get the most payout, the most bang for your buck if you do this. But then you have this mining loop where you go and get ice and you go and get corundum. And you take that to a location, or you salvage and you take CM or RMC, right? Okay, here is what some people are doing, and it's not cheesing it. At the beginning of this podcast, I made the comment about people cheesing it. It's the freaking game loop. The loop is like the salvaging loop is to take CM, construction material, or RMC, right, from scraping, and taking that, to a location. So here's what people are doing. Even in the solo world, you're taking your largest ship. So like, because I have the Javelin and the Polaris, I actually have 2 Polarises. So theoretically, I could take 2 Polarises out in the middle of nowhere, shuttle myself back to an orbital station, pull the reclaimer, and just sit there for an hour, hole scraping and then completely munching for the construction materials. Solo, I could have the majority of this done in like a day. I don't think that's cheesing it. Like that's the game loop. Now, is it ethical? Is it like, should you be going out and trying to find, ships in orbit? Because the actual mission description is like, orbiting around planets are, ships that you can salvage. What? Like, have you ever just orbited around a planet before? Hell no. So your option is to like go outside of Obituary or Ruined Station and kind of see the little ships that are around that are, it has like the nomenclature. It's like a letter, number. I don't know. Anyways, but you're in the middle of a PvP world, and that's super dangerous. So people are like, screw that. I just want to salvage for an hour without the fear of dying. So this is what they're doing, right? They're going to Obituary. They're facing towards the sun. They fly about 100 kilometers away and just towards the sun, so it's a direction. They shuttle themselves back, get the reclaimer, point towards the sun, go that 100 kilometers in that direction. There's your ship you left behind, and you salvage the shit out of it. It's a method. All right, so that's that. What Soul Provision did. So I think this is an opportunity. I might have called it out last episode, but what Soul Provision did is we had a bunch of sweaties that spent literally hours. And I know we were joking about it last night, but like 48 hours collectively of just pure salvaging. And we had like 4,000 if you count what was in Ruin Station already and what we came with at Lorville, which I'll talk about the mission in a second. We had close to 4,000 of each, like CM and RMC. And so last night became this amazing cargo hauling mission. And that was the big op-ord that I was talking about. So we had 34 people to plan for, 28 showed up. My awesome organization already had, I think at the time, 2,000 of each, like 2,000 RMC, 2,000 construction material in Lorville. And so we all stationed, here we go. So the QRF, the Quick Reaction Force, and our LURS, I was the LURS effort, the Long Range and Reconnaissance Surveillance. We staged our combat ships at the Pyro Jump Point in Stanton. And then we shuttled ourselves to Lorville. This is before the Orgonite even started. We all met in Lorville. So 28 of us are in Lorville, and we have 3 C2s. So each of the hangars, we had 3 hangars, 3 C2s, and the individual who did all this hard work, who had the thousands of materials, went to each one of the hangars to pull up a quantity of materials in the freight elevator. So he went to hangar 1, pulled it up, hangar 2, pulled it up, hangar 3, pulled it up. And then our 28 people divided into 3 groups and helped load the C2. Shitload of fun. It took half an hour to an hour. It was a long process, right? But it's a lot of fun to do when you are doing it with friends. And so even just the simple mission of taking freight elevator boxes and putting them onto your ship, a C2, it was fun. It was Tetris, shenanigans took place, people are being idiots, in a funny, humorous way. But it took a mundane task and made it a lot of fun. So when we got to a point of almost being ready to go, the QRF dispatched me, again, Luris by myself in the Eclipse, dispatched to go get our fighters out of the pyro jump point and really just kind of pulled security for the main effort, the main body. And so what was neat about my individual story is I'm in my Eclipse. I kind of park it behind, whenever you come up to the car wash, which is the jump point. It's like driving through a car wash, right? At the very end, or really throughout the entire car wash, you've got these derelict orbital station kind of things. Well, I end up taking the Eclipse and I pull like a Star Wars maneuver where I hide the Eclipse against one of them, like on the backside, so people can't see me, turn the engines off, turn everything off, so there's no signature. Well, somehow somebody found me and I was being attacked, right? I don't know how this happened because, again, I turned everything off. But somebody started shooting at me to the point where I lost my right wing. So what was fun is I put everything on, turned on nav mode, and I started running away. You're in an Eclipse. This is not the most, secured, shielded ship that the Verse has. So I kind of run away. Well, they stopped firing on me. And I'm like, okay, fuck around and find out. I turn on SCM, activate my size 9 torpedoes, blew them up. So there was a small part of me that's it was kind of a sexy moment where I'm like, okay, my job is to make sure that this area is clear and safe and secure for the main body of, again, 3 C2s plus security, a QRF. It's just kind of a fun moment, right? Okay, so secured the area, everybody comes. I go through the jump point first, secure the other side of the jump point, and then the main body, comes through right after me, after we make sure everything is clear, and then Star Citizen happens. Right, we got Polaris 1 that's just sitting and chilling, right? Allegedly. So Groza inside of the Polaris 1 is sitting and chilling. You've got one of our QRF is a Hammerhead with 6 people in it, 5 or 6 people in it, and somehow they collided. We don't know. We will never know. But somehow they collided, probably a desync issue, and we lost our Hammerhead plus 6 people. So already, halfway through the mission, pure chaos coming out of the pyro jump point. We pick up the mission, the heavy mission or the large mission. It's a turn in an obituary. So I make way to obituary, secure the area. The station shoots at me for some reason. Maybe my combat with this other ship at the jump point made me a criminal. I don't know. But the station started firing at me. So then it soft deathed my Eclipse. I had to get out in EVA. Got into somebody else's Scorpius. They landed me inside of the obituary station. And then I got ready to help unload. Long story short, we were able to unload the first C2 and half of the second C2 for one mission turn in. And that's significant. It's 800 tickets, or 600 to 800 tickets. And then we immediately had the other half of the C2 plus the third C2, which equated to a second turn in. So we had, 1,200 tickets at least in a 2-hour span. It was a phenomenal night, right? Again, you can argue if it's ethical. You can argue if it is, the right thing to do with salvaging. I personally think, there's nothing wrong with anything that we did. That is the game loop. More importantly, CIG's intent is to encourage group play through a narrative. The narrative was achieved, group play was achieved, supply or die, a massive, huge success. So I've been showing this for the last couple of minutes. Supply or die. Again, I'm not going to rehash all this. Here is your frontier fakers. The frontier fighters becoming slicers, so they're all bad. Boo-hoo. And so here are your two choices: peace for pyro, or citizens for prosperity. The article is called Peace and Pyro. You have your fire with fire, the headhunters. Here's a video for supply or die. Here are the rewards. So I kind of surmised in last episode there was like a diorama, or there was a display that actually is a display. It's the first thing you can get, a tier 1, a decorative diorama to enhance your hangar environment. So this thing is freaking awesome. I love it. Tier 2, this Ravager 212 Outcast twin shotgun, which is right here above my head. I got that last night. So again, I'm like 200 tickets away from getting the paints. And of course, you can see the paints. Now, again, last episode, it looked as though they were showcasing two prospectors. Of course, it's the prospector and the fortune. So you've got the vulture, you have the prospector, and you've got the new fortune. So amazing paint jobs, around. And what's cool is like on the paint job, you can see the word scavenger. So like on the vulture right here is scavenger. I think on the bottom side of one of these, obviously you can't see it, but there's an image I saw earlier. On the bottom side, you've got scavenger scribbled on the fortune and on the prospector. So I love the paint jobs. I love the shotgun. I love the diorama. Like, more events like this, CIG, please. More events like this. And we have spent a lot of time on Supply or Die. I'm going to go ahead and kind of not fast forward, but we pulled up the Spectrum post. We don't need to. We've gone through all of it. So how have you been enjoying Supply or Die? Have you done it with an org? Are you doing it by yourself? How far have you gotten? Do you like the rewards? Give it to me. Comment section on YouTube, comment section on Spotify. All right, let's keep going. Evocati got Star Citizen Alpha 4.1 on the PTU again a couple of nights ago. I've not been able to get into it. I am Evocati, but I haven't been able to get into it because of everything we've literally been talking about for the last 45 minutes. But let's go to some of the facts here. So again, a 55600 mesh configuration. That's 5 DGSs in Stanton, 5 DGSs in Pyro. Max headcount of 600. You're going to start off with 15 million. Great. Testing feedback focus, stability, thank you. Enabling Orison and Area 18 NPE. Ground vehicle and FPS mining missions or mining updates. New upcoming event mission. Keeping all details limited to test and game communication. I will not tell you. I know what it is. I will not tell you. Sorry. It's not even an NDA thing. It's limited to Evocati testing in game for a reason. You are going to love it. You're going to love it. If you like Supply or Die, if you like these org missions, you're going to love it. All right. There were some game-breaking issues, though. It was supposed to have gone into Wave 1 PTU last night, but there were some issues with it, so it's got delayed to Friday. Potentially today, potentially over the weekend, it'll be available in Wave 1 PTU. All the details will be released. Of course, I'll say something about it on social media. I just don't think right now on the podcast is the right time. All right, moving on. Item recovery. It's not ready for testing or feedback. We're going to talk about item recovery here in a second. Just patience. So not ready for testing or feedback. The item recovery. Additional missions updated for meshing, Volt weapons. Some known issues. Features and gameplay. The locations polish pass for Hather alignment facilities and orbital platforms. That's not anything new. We talked about it last week in the roadmap update. It's going to be in new mining facilities, gameplay, ground vehicle mining, and FPS mining updates. A lot of shit. Look at this. A lot of redacted, right? So a lot of materials that are being redacted. I'm going to leave it there. Just listen to last week's episode, guys. I told you what it was in last week's episode. And that was just me guessing. Okay, merchandise. Right, the March 2025 subscriber promotions. Let's get going. You can see everything here in the screen, even the vehicles in the background. But let's go through what these items are. I'll react to it. Let's see what happens. In-game rewards, Flare. We have a big winner t-shirt. Yeah, I'm gonna go and react. Like, man, I always struggle with how I want to talk about subscriber flare. You do you. It helps you get into Wave 1 PTU if that interests you. You're giving money to the game. Like, don't let me influence, whether or not this is the right decision for you. T-shirts. They're so... Non-space gear is so worthless at this current moment. Like, unless you are role-playing and like you land at an orbital station and you go through what it takes to change clothes, like you go to the item kiosk or the storage access kiosk, and you take off your gear and you put on t-shirt and pants. They don't have lockers yet. Like, the intent is to have like lockers where you have saved outfits and you go to a locker and you can just quickly change between like space gear and civilian gear. I think that will solve the problem. Like, imagine your hangar. Like, if you have a medium, large, extra large hangar, you know how you have your 2 storage accesses. I can imagine a locker system in between both of those. And that would be sexy because you're already in your hangar. You're already moving shit around. I can see that. I can see that being sexy. You go to that locker, you click 1 or 2 buttons to your saved outfits, and you change into like a t-shirt and pants. Make it fast. Make it easy. Otherwise, it's so deprioritized. Like, when I land, the most I will do is I take off my helmet and I put it in my backpack so that way I can eat and drink. But you won't ever find me taking off all of my armor to put on a t-shirt. So here is a very I don't know. It's a low bar. It's not a hit on the team. CIG, like, if you're part of the design team of this element, it's not a hit on you. Whatever. It's fine. I like the exclusivity and uniqueness of it. But I don't know if this is worth, $10 because this is a Centurion level subscriber. So for $10, this is what you're getting, a t-shirt. Now, the rest of the items are halfway decent. Yet another chair, but I think it's a very cool looking chair. So if you're an Imperator level subscriber, that's $20 a month. That's a neat chair. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool. It kind of looks like the supplier die boxes, right? I like it. I like the aesthetics of this. A chair is something you can use. It's furniture you put around your hangar. So as that starts maturing with base building, when that starts maturing, all these furniture FPS items, by all means, phenomenal. I'm okay with that. So let's go to the store level items. So if you actually want to go and spend money, even though you're a subscriber, here's the armor set. This is pretty cool looking. You got the Mohawk helmet, and then everything else very detailed. It's a very detailed top, very detailed pants and shoes. I will always be a fan of the gear. However, even though it's a helmet, pretty sure this is space safe, so you can wear this, on mission. But again, the details are pretty amazing. The belt has a skull on it. The back end has a clover leaf. It looks like a clover leaf, and given that it's called the Lucky Break armor set, I'm pretty sure that is a clover hanging on the dude's ass. But the rest looks pretty cool. So I think that was done pretty well. And then the Party Hard pack is everything, right? So you can get the pack. Let's just read it. Celebrate with your fellow Deep Space Desperados with this Stella Fortuna themed party pack featuring 2 special edition weapons. Boom, I see one. Oh, pistol. So the pistol and the rifle, an armor set, 2 tankards. Oh, they're actually holding it. Interesting. I did this a couple days ago, and I'm like, where are the freaking tankers? They're holding them. They're doing a toast with the tankards. And this is and more. Don't know what the and more is, but cool. It's available for the subscribers to pledge and dedicate. Cool. So I don't know. This would be something I would buy, like the whole set. Now, I don't know how much it is. I'm not a subscriber anymore. I've chosen to spend my money on ships. But what are your thoughts, guys? What are your thoughts on this month? I think this month was halfway decent. I don't like having a t-shirt for the Centurion level, but I think the rest of it's a step in the right direction, which By the way, I didn't mention this. The loaner ships, the subscriber ships for the month is the Storm and the Storm Alpha Alpha. So your ground tanks. And I wonder why there'd be ground tanks going into 4.1. Read between the lines. Okay. Staying with the subscriber flare, I did ask the poll over on Twitter. Yesterday, CIG announced the subscriber promotions. How do you feel about it? So 873 views, 128 votes. Here's your breakout. 39.8% said they disliked the offerings. 32.8% said they liked the offerings. 19.5% said they hated the offerings, and 7.8 said they loved. So kind of a Likert scale, love, like, dislike, hate. 128 votes, you get kind of a general sentiment here on how people are feeling. But again, I think this is better than previous months. It's better than January's. It's better than February's. So I will take it. Not a bad step in the direction. Okay. And here's like another deal real quick. Here's another deal. If I decide like in April, I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back to being a subscriber for XYZ reasons. When you become a subscriber, you now have access to previous months. So you go to the subscriber store, you go and you search, and I'm like, you know what? I liked March's chair. I like the chair that looked like supplier die. Boom. And you can go and you can buy it. So, you know, you're not really missing out until you're ready to become a subscriber. Okay, we had Components, Power, and Signatures article that also came out. This is it's a very interesting article. I'll be very honest with you, like I skimmed through this very quickly. I, of course, am interested in ship components, but I'm also not someone who's going to take, okay, all right. I love you guys, and I know most of you love me. So, friend to friend, I have like 50 ships, probably more than 50 ships. And it's like everything large moving way down. So Javelin, both Krakens, Idrises, like mostly big org ships, but I have more than 50 ships easily. I'm not really going to sit there and get components for every single ship. So maybe for my ship of the month, whatever I'm like in the mood for, like the Vulture this past couple of weeks because of supplier die, I completely upgraded my Vulture, so components mattered. But I don't do it for every other ship. I might improve like the quantum drives to get away, to get around more quickly, which is super necessary in Pyro. So I might do like quantum drives, but I don't really get into coolers, shield generators. Now, I know if you're really big into PvP, you're really big into like ship combat, bounty hunting missions, etc., you're going to want to upgrade your ship. You're like to have a chance, to stand a chance. You're going to have to upgrade your weapon systems. You're going to upgrade your components. But for, again, somebody like me, spends very little time in game, unfortunately, you're going to be pretty choosy on what ships you upgrade. So where this article was super important, talks about type, class, grades, sizes, health, durability, weights, power consumption. It talks about everything. I have less of an interest in it in this current moment, right? Not to say that you shouldn't, but let's just go through this quickly. Here are your types. Really want to encourage y'all actually going through this and looking at all of this. But these are the components: battery, cooler, fuel tank, the hydrogen fuel tank, gravity generator, jump drive, which by the way, I didn't know that you could upgrade a gravity generator, which maybe you still can't. It's just saying it's a part of a ship. But it does consume power, of course. Jump drive, life support generator, power plant, quantum drive, quantum fuel tank, radar, shield emitter, shield generator, thrusters, and engines. There's a shitload of things for you to upgrade on your ship. Like, it's incredible. And then it goes through like the sizes and classes. So this, I think, is if you just want a very quick high level, is this better than that? Usually you can look at size and class, right? So the sizes matter on your ship size. Like if you have a Gladius, you're not going to put a size 4 anything on it unless it's like a weapon system, I think. But even then, smaller because it's a Gladius. So like your sizes matter, but your classes are kind of broken into efficiencies, or like power emission. So like your stealth power emission is going to be very low. Your military is going to be very powerful, but maybe not so efficient. Competition is going to be more about speed, obviously. But like civilian is like you're good all around. Industrial is you're efficient. So like that's kind of a good breakdown. So the sizes matter for what can fit on your ship. The classes matter because of what you're doing. So you might not want a super fast quantum drive on an exploration, right? So if you're going to live up in space and you're on a Carrack, you don't necessarily care about being fast. You want it to be efficient so you can spend more time without having to go and refuel, as an example. Then you can get into grades. That's quality. So a grade A is your highest quality. And then it starts getting into like maybe the new stuff, things to consider, dynamics or attributes, the power, heat, and signature, things that you're going to want to consider for mission types. So power throttles, power distribution, coolant and heat, signatures, EM or electromagnetic, infrared, cross section. These are your signals or signatures, right? It's going to be your electromagnetic signature, infrared signature, cross section signature. This is what other ships are seeing of you. So if you're stealthy, you're going to want to care about all three of these. So it's a good article. If modifying your ship is your thing and you want to do that to all 50 plus of your ships, have at it. Good article for education. You can also go to a lot of content creators. Subliminal does a lot of videos that I loved watching. I don't watch it anymore. No offense to Subliminal and what he does, but it's like ships have changed so much and they change so frequently that a lot of that content is outdated at this point. So it's kind of hard. It kind of sucks to kind of, be part of that world when things are changing as drastically as they are. So I recognize that as well. But here's a great article straight from the horse's mouth on what to do with your ship. Okay, guys, item recovery. And we're about an hour into this episode. But item recovery. Okay, let's do this. So item recovery, this is like 320. And somebody keep me honest. I think in patch 320, they hinted at, hey, it's here. Unique item recovery. So if you have subscription gear or if you paid $4 for a paladin helmet and you die and it gets lost or somebody loots it off your body, you're never getting that back again. Now, theoretically, you can melt it in the store and rebuy it. But what about the time sensitive? The items that you can't, melt and buy back. Unique item recovery is the idea that if you spent your actual real money on subscriber gear, or again, like I said for my example, buying a paladin helmet, you would be able to get it back and not have to character repair, not have to reset your character back in the day, and not have to melt and buy again. Didn't cough. That was a clearing of the throat. So far, I'm doing really good. Okay. So that was the premise. The premise is item recovery is paid items. It's not gear all around. Okay, we've waited since 320 for this. Finally, they announce in Alpha 4.1, we will have our first look at item recovery. So much drama. So much drama. Let's get into this. As we prepare for the Evocati test phase of our upcoming Alpha 4.1 patch, we'd like to introduce the iterative, keyword iterative, release plan for item recovery, a long-awaited system that gives players more control over reclaiming their valuable gear after death. At SitCon, some videos, go watch it. Today we want to provide a more detailed breakdown of some of the iterative releases that will start to bring these plans to life. The initial T0 rollout will be fairly basic compared to the full system, but it marks a crucial first step as we shared at CitizenCon. The complete item recovery system will be far more robust and nuanced, making gear management a core gameplay element. You'll be able to secure the items that matter most while still allowing room for piracy and emergent gameplay. Just remember what I literally just read. You'll be able to secure the items that matter most while still allowing room for piracy and emergent gameplay. Okay. Implementation. No one likes T0. No one likes T0, and that's what we're getting with 4.1. With the initial rollout of item recovery in Alpha 4.1, you will respawn with the exact gear you had equipped at the time of death. Emphasis on the term equipped, as this is different than what you may have had in your inventory. This includes equipped weapons, armor magazines, and med pens, ensuring that your core loadout is retained. However, items stored in your inventory, such as your buyback or other containers, will remain on your corpse, making them available for looting or retrieval. While equipped items will also remain on your corpse too, they will not be interactable, preventing the item duplication while still preserving the visual state of your character at the time of death. This approach helps mitigate item duplication issues in the initial implementation, while laying the groundwork for future expansions of the system in T1 and T2, which you can read more about below. Important notes: items stored in your inventory, like in your backpack, will not be protected and will remain on your corpse upon death, available to be looted, stolen by other players, or retrieved by you. Items such as magazines and med pens that you have equipped can still be looted from your corpse. However, you will also respawn with these items, as duplication concerns for these types of consumables are less concerning at this stage. T0 item recovery applies to all forms of respawning, whether in a medbed, on a ship, or at your assigned landing zone. To ensure that your weapon in active use is secured as an equipped item, it will automatically be stowed to your holster upon death. If you die within a landing zone, you will respawn with both your equipped gear and your inventory. Example, bed logging in your backpack. This is to help avoid you losing items of any kind should a death outside of your control happen. With T0, you'll respawn with your previously equipped gear already attached to your character. Scenario example: while exploring, you loot a rifle and store it in your backpack. If you die, that rifle will remain on your corpse, available for others to loot or for you to revisit your corpse and retrieve. However, the original rifle you had equipped to your character, in hand or holstered, at the time of death will be secured and respawn with you. So it's not unique item recovery anymore. This is any gear. It's not pledge store items. It's not items you've bought with money or that have come with the subscription gear. It's any gear. Why? I'm not big into PvP, player versus player. I'm not big on it. I don't have anything against it. It's just not for me. Why would you do this? If I'm in a sperm suit, right? Like a white EVA jumpsuit and a white helmet, and I die, why can't someone take that off of me? It makes no sense. What's the purpose of having economy? What's the purpose of having money? Like, the whole point of the game is to like get UEC. So if you die, yeah, it's a little bit annoying. It's a little bit annoying to have to go and buy more gear, but that's part of it. That's part of the quote unquote realism that they're trying to push in the game. So like when I die, which is often, when I die in the game, when I spawn back in Seraphim Station, there's kind of a part of me that enjoys going, I'm like, oh shit, well that sucks. Let me lick my wounds. Let me think about what I did wrong. And I do that by refitting. I might go eat some food. I might go to I might go get my Nightfire gear and like go and get cargo items, and it could very well be expensive. But that's the point. Like, we've always debated, like, what's the purpose of Star Citizen? What do you do in the game? Well, it's buying ships. Well, it's getting a lot of UEC so I can rent and buy ships. Like, what else are you going to use your money on? Like, once you buy your ships in game, what else are you going to spend money on if you just keep everything? Like, you're not going to have 10 of every... Like, for me, if I have a lot of UEC, I'll buy 10 of all the Nightfire pieces, and I'll put it in my storage access. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to die, go to my storage access, put on another suit, that 10 becomes a 9, across all items. And I don't know, it's like inventory management, right? But this completely strips away, I mean, one of the main reasons to get money in the game, to buy gear. And if you're if you're Space Whale, if you're a Space Whale and you have 50 plus ships and you're not really getting UEC to rent or buy ships in game, like, what are you getting money for if you only have to buy one piece of gear one time ever? No one likes T0. Don't understand it. Make it just subscriber or pledge store items and done. Like, that sounds like a great idea, but not for any piece of item. Does not make sense. Okay. T1 and T2. I don't know. Guys, what are your thoughts? Please, like, this is the subject to respond in the comment sections. So please. T1, loadout and ship registration. Okay, T1 will introduce the ability to register your gear and ships at a kiosk or ASOP terminal. T1 will introduce the ability to register your gear and ships at kiosks or ASOP terminals. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Important notes: personal loadout. Players can register their equipped items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at a specific kiosk or freight elevators. Ships, but like, does that mean money that you, like, items that you paid for? There we go. Pledge items are auto-registered. Okay. All right. But back to the article. Ships and interiors. Ships, along with their loadouts, decorations, and locker contents, can also be registered. They can be reclaimed in the state they were previously registered at ASOP terminals for a price. Looting and bricked items. Once an item is looted, it remains usable until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen. At that point, a dead man switch is activated, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. While a looted and or stolen quote unquote bricked item is no longer usable, you can still sell the item for credits. Pledged items are auto-registered and will never lose their registration status. They can always be claimed back even if they were not manually registered. Just quickly, I'm gonna stop here. So tier 1 loadout and ship registration, this starts getting into the CitizenCon videos, right, that you could watch from last year. This makes sense. It totally makes sense. It's the dead man switch conversation. So somebody stole my ship, I died. Well, when I come back to life, I hit that dead man switch. It makes everything, it ceases to function after a period of time. But if you pirated it, you can still sell it for money. You can still salvage it or whatever the hell you want to do with it. It's just you can't operate it, right? It's a dead man switch. This is all like old news. We knew this coming out of CitizenCon, and I don't think it really generated that much negativity. So tier 1 loadout and ship registration, great. Tier 2, restoring bricked items and crafting registration. This is like if an item was it's a way, let me just read it. Looting and bricked items. Once an item is looted, you have the option to sell it, dismantle it, or crafting material, or restore it, right, to make it your own. That's kind of taking away the dead man switch, but you're actually paying for like the process to do it. So tier 1, tier 2, that's basically coming out of CitizenCon. But that T0, I don't know. I'm going to stop there, guys. Like, I don't want to keep bitching. It's the antithesis of an MMO, of an environment where the community is encouraged to interact with each other. I don't know. I'm not liking T0 at all, and I would love to hear your thoughts. While I have you here, yes, of course I asked a poll, and this shit went viral relative to Star Citizen. So 3.3 thousand views, almost 600 votes, right? Here you go. After yesterday's news of item recovery coming into 4.1, what are your thoughts on its implementation? Here is your Likert: strongly in favor, not in favor, strongly not in favor. Believe it or not, 34.7% said they're in favor. 32.7% they said they're strongly in favor. Only 18.8% said strongly not in favor, and 13.9% said not in favor. So overwhelmingly, out of 600 votes, they're in favor for it. Now I'll explain myself. T0, absolutely not. T0, no. T0 T0, I am not in favor. Maybe not strongly not in favor, but I'm not in favor for T0. T1 and T2, yeah, I actually agree with the polls. T1 and T2, strongly in favor. I just don't understand the breakaway from subscription gear. If somebody else is lying on the floor dead with Nightfire gear on, why would that not be, like, why can I not loot that? Why can I not steal it off the body? Tell me your thoughts. Do you agree with the poll? What is your feedback? The last thing we had was the Star Citizen monthly report. We're at time, and we're at time not because I want to keep the podcast to an hour, but my kids are about to wake up. So I'm literally physically out of time. The monthly report, there's some gold nuggets in there, some interesting things to call out, but nothing groundbreaking. Doesn't get into 4.1 and some leaks or anything. Your typical advancements on ships that we can't talk about, mission givers, which, man, I'm not doing it. I'm not ruining it. The mission givers in 4.1 are going to surprise everybody. I cannot wait for you to experience that. But because of the timing, because of my kids almost being up, because I have to get ready for work, I don't have time to get into it, and I'm sorry for that. So let's wrap this one up. Episode 96, I have 4 more episodes until episode 100. I'm going to start teasing on what you can expect out of episode 100. You don't want to miss it. It'll be a Thursday night recording. It'll be live over on YouTube. So get ready for that fun community event that we're going to be throwing on. So really excited about that. If you want to know more information about what we do at Beyond the Verse podcast or Soul Provision, you can go to beyondtheversehq.com, soulprovision.com. Again, our philanthropy is Extra Life. You can give through those websites. Go to beyondtheversehq.com, very top, hit give. It'll take you straight to the Extra Life portal. Feel free to give to the kids in need. Would love that. We're trying to hit 5,000. We've hit 745. It's 14% a goal, almost there. Relative to Q1. All right. If you want to become part of the conversation, email us at beyondtheversehq.com. You can comment in the Spotify or in YouTube. We'll read the comments on Spotify, react to the polls. Obviously, we go through polls and we talk about how you feel as the community. So feel free to do that as well. Again, our in-game organization is Soul Provision. We're going to take you. Right? We're going to take you. We have a very welcoming family that is always doing something throughout the weeks. Our Thursday night org nights are off the charts, always lit, extremely fun. So come join us. Come join us. Be part of that. I hope this finds everybody well. Safe travels as you traverse Beyond the Verse. Take care, everybody.